On today's show, we talk with Dale Scott, a former Major League Baseball umpire of over 30 years, and we talk all things umpire.
Welcome to another episode of the Baseball Awakening Podcast, where we dive into the raw, unfiltered, unsexy side of player development. Get ready for some knowledge bombs with your host, Geoff Rottmayer.
Welcome to the Baseball Awakening Podcast. I'm Geoff Rottmayer, and today we sit down with Dale Scott, a former Major League umpire of over 30 years. Dale appeared in just under 3,900 games, as well as appearing in the World Series in 98, 2001, 2004, in the All-Star Game in 93, 2001, and 2011. Dale, I'm excited to have you here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Dale, as a guy that spent 30 plus years at the major league level as an umpire, you have seen the game from a different perspective, one that I'm excited to learn about today. But can we just kind of start with, talk a little bit about your background in baseball and then how you got into umpiring?
Sure, and thanks for having me on. I was a huge baseball fan as a kid. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and at that time, of course, there was no Seattle Mariners, so I was a LA Dodger fan, and the reason for that was my grandfather lived in LA, and the first Major League game I ever saw was at Dodger Stadium in 1973, and so I was loved baseball, and I played every year that I started. I don't know, in fourth grade or something. But I thought for sure that I was going to grow up and be the first baseman for the Dodgers. There was no problem with that, but I did encounter a few problems. The fact that I couldn't field, hit, run, or throw, and that was probably what curtailed my baseball playing days. I think the last year I played was when I was 14. I was going into high school, and of course in high school, either varsity or certainly wasn't going to make either one of those teams. At the time that I went to high school, it was only a 3-year high school, and we didn't have freshman baseball. So, I was 15 years old, and I loved the game, and I was wanted to stay involved if I could, but at that age, you're really kind of too young to be coaching, and I wouldn't have made a very good coach anyway, I don't think. But a friend of mine had said that he umpired the summer before, and he suggested that maybe I look into that. And so I thought, I watched the umpires a lot when I played baseball because I was on the bench a lot, and I thought that might be something to look into. So I checked it out, started umpiring at 15, and really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed the fact that every day was different, and I kind of excelled at it. And so had a different friend that had gone to Umpire School a few years prior, and he said, you should really look into going into Umpire School. He said, obviously that's the only way you can get into professional baseball is to go to one of the 2 umpire schools, but there's quite a few people that go just to learn about umpiring, to become a better umpire, and then go back to their communities and their associations and move up and maybe work, college and that type of stuff, just learning from the guys that know it best. And so I thought that's a great idea. I'd love to do that. And so when I was 21, I went to Umpire School, and I finished 5th in my class. Nice. Sent to the 1-week advanced school where I finished in the top 10 somewhere. They didn't actually list the numbers, but we knew that there were actually 13 slots that would be going to minor league spring training. And so those would be the top 13 guys of the advanced school. So I got one of those slots, and I went to minor league spring training, and that a career was started. That was in 1981.
Nice. So when you say you were 5th in the class, what does that mean? What does that entail?
Well, at the time that I went to Umpire School, there were 2 schools, but one of the schools had 2 schools in themselves. In other words, they had a school in San Bernardino, California, and then they, right after that school ended, they had a school in Sarasota, Florida. I went to the San Bernardino School in California, and that school actually only lasted a couple more years after that because of low attendance. The Florida schools usually got about 100, 125 guys. The San Bernardino school that year had 27. So
wow.
I was fifth out of. So when I say I finished fifth in the class, sounds very impressive. There's only 27 students. So
right.
There you go. But but the key to that though was the top 5 of the San Bernardino school would be sent to the advanced school. So I just made that, and that's a big deal to be able to go to the advanced school because the top, what it basically is the top 50 students from now the 2 schools in Florida go to this advanced school, and so that's the first barrier, first line, first goal that you try to make if you go to umpire school is to be in that group to go to the advanced school.
Nice. And what's the difference? Obviously, it's advanced, but what's the difference from that class that you went to the advanced class?
Well, the difference, first of all, you're obviously have the most potential as far as the schools are concerned, because that's put you in that position. And it gives a chance. Now, once you go to the advanced school, now you're being observed by the people that run minor league baseball. You're also being observed by a major league umpire supervisor. So it's the first real time that you're getting your name out there and to see getting you on the radar, so to speak. And also in the advanced school, that's when they assign, after that school's over, the minor league umpire supervisors assign you to whatever openings there are in minor league baseball that year. That could vary every year as far as that goes, because there's some years there's more people that are guys that are released out of the minor leagues, or some years it might be more than others. Also, umpires that decide to get out of umpiring and that kind of stuff. So, if you get into the advanced school, do well, and now they assign you into the lower minor leagues. That's again another goal that you want to make and get yourself into the system, and then you just work your way through that system.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about the umpiring school? What all did you guys do during school? Obviously you're learning the rules, but there's a lot more to it that most people don't realize. Well,
there's so much more to umpiring, the intricacies of the profession. Obviously, rules are a huge part of it. You've got to know the rule book, and every at umpire school, which lasts about 4.5 weeks. 4.5 weeks. Typical day at umpire school is you start off in the morning, probably 8 or 9 o'clock, and you devote about 2 hours or so into the rule book. And every rule is discussed and picked apart. And to help understand rules, to help to understand why a rule is in, you have to understand the genesis of that rule, the history of it. Why, in most cases, a rule is in there because something happened that we needed to make a rule about it. Yeah. And so it helps you understand the reasoning for a rule when you understand the history of it and how it came about. And so it's not just, here's the rule and here's the rule and here's the rule. It's actually breaking it down and understanding exactly why and how it's enforced and why it's enforced and those types of things. And there's you're constantly being quizzed on the sessions that you've already been through and that type of stuff as the school goes on. Then after the classroom in the morning, you break for the fields. The umpire schools have numerous fields and batting cages. The batting cages are set up with pitching machines, and you go in there and you call pitches. You call pitches from a right-handed hitter and a left-handed hitter, and all the intricacies of your plate work and your stance and your feet and your positioning and your head height and following the ball and tracking the ball with your eyes and all the things that go into that. On the regular fields, they have you're working the system, so to speak, the two-man system. Plate umpire, base umpire. The rest of the students are the quote-unquote players, and you rotate in and out. But you set up plays. They'll have a fungo hitter, and you set up runner situation. Runners at first and third, 2 outs. Runners first and second, 1 out. And hit a double play ball, hit a single to right, hit a ball down the line or whatever. And the umpires that are working that rotation have to, as you are taught, obviously, have to work the rotation, who has responsibility for the ball, if you're rotating, and then, of course, you have calls of slide plays, force plays, and you have to work on your timing, your positioning, you're making sure you're stopped for the play and your head's not moving. And there's just a checklist of things as you're taught throughout the 4.5 weeks of how to take the play and how to call a play and those types of things. So it's a pretty intensive 4.5 weeks. It's 6 days a week. You get Sundays off usually, and it's a good 8 to 10 hours a day that you are working. And so I started at the Umpire School, but by the time the evening came and you went to do some rule book studying or whatever, you were exhausted.
Yeah.
By there's just so much mentally and physically going on throughout a normal day at Umpire School. But it was Umpire School was a lot of fun.
It sounds.
I went into Umpire School and I thought I was a pretty good umpire, and I realized that no, I wasn't. There was just so much to learn. Your positioning, footwork, stuff that I never even thought of, nor was I taught, at the lower levels.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot of fun. So obviously the whole time you guys are going through that process, they are grading everything, and that's how they go on to pick who gets to go through.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that they are grading?
They're grading everything from the day you show up at Umpire School until they they put the class in the graduating order. You are being evaluated, and that means not just your rules tests and not just work with the cages or work on the field, but they're also the instructors are also observing your demeanor, your personality, your how you react to things, how you react to criticism, constructive criticism, how you react to part of the deal on when you're doing this stuff out in the field. You have certain instructors that are going to be acting like managers, and they're going to come out and they're going to argue a play, and they want to see how you react to that. Are you calm? Are you do you eject the guy when you're supposed to? Do you not eject him when you should have? And the whole demeanor of things. And that all plays into a part in evaluating a student at Umpire School because, again, it's much more. I mean, it's intensive enough that the ball strike, safe out, fair foul, but also demeanor and how you carry yourself and how you diffuse, hopefully, situations and not throw gas on the fire and all those types of things. Another good one is just if you have an argument in Umpire School about a play, does that affect you the next 3 plays? Is that on your mind as you're trying to, because you can't do that. In a game, I missed a call. Okay, I missed a call. Guess what? I got another one coming up real quick. So I gotta put that aside and move on. I can deal with that missed call after the game by talking to my partner. If I have video, I'll watch all that stuff, but I can't dwell on it at the time because guess what? It's like a shortstop. He makes an error on a double play ball. He can't dwell on it. Now he misses another double play ball. It's all mentally. You have to shut that out and compartmentalize so much.
That's interesting. So now you go and you're one of the 13 that get assigned to the minor leagues. What is that like? You're saying to yourself, "Wow, I'm really going to go do this." And it's my first game. Can you kind of talk about what the emotion was like? What was that moment like for you?
Well, I'm often asked some of the highlights of my umpire career, and I have many when I was in the major leagues, but some of the first highlights of my career was just that day in Umpire School when I found out that I was in the 5th in class and I was going to go to the advanced school. The day that after the advanced school, I was told that I was ranked high enough to get a minor league spring training. Those are big hurdles to get over. Just as a percentage, they figure, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it's give or take, it's about 1% of the total class from all the schools will make it to the big leagues. It's just a very small amount because there's just not a lot of openings, and that type of stuff. But my first minor league game was in Bend, Oregon, in the Northwest League, and I was nervous. I had the bases, and this was it. This was the new show for me, but a lot of times, and this has helped me throughout my whole career when I had big games or big series or whatever, is the build up to it almost always is more butterflies, all that stuff. It's almost always worse than when it gets started. When the game starts, you're doing what you've been trained to do and what you've been doing for years. But it's the build up that often plays on you a little bit mentally, and that's certainly what happened before my first game, and then of course the next day my first game behind the plate in the Northwest League. But at that level, you're getting rookie players. You're getting rookie players either from straight from high school or from college. You get a lot of Dominican and Puerto Rican and Latino players. Many of them don't speak English. Many of them have never been to the United States, and it's all a new experience for them too. And both sides are learning. The players are learning not only how to play for their organization and the fundamentals that they want and those types of things, but they're learning what they can and cannot say to umpires, how to argue, as a lot of times, quite frankly, the managers, although they've been around baseball longer, obviously, but it's all a learning experience for them, just as it is for us. We've been trained as umpires, but now we're learning in real time and real life how to handle situations and how to, there's numerous times that I would handle something and it blew up in my face. I go, okay, note to self, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah,
so it's such a learning experience as you start off in professional baseball, even though players have played for years, and I had umpires for several years. It's still you're still kind of started brand new again.
That's interesting. So when you first got to pro ball, most would think that being behind the plate would be the toughest position. Would you agree with that when you first got to pro ball with the guys throwing harder and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I was, when you first, like in the Northwest League, I was now dealing with pitchers that threw harder and faster than I'd experienced at the high school and small college level. They had more array of pitches. Just wasn't fastball and curveball. I mean, there's all kinds of sliders, hard sliders on slow curve, blah 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 blah, all these things. And so as an umpire, you're not thinking, oh gosh, I bet he's going to throw like a hitter might guess, I think he's going to come back at me with a fastball or whatever. And, people ask me, do you think? No, I don't think that way, because I'm not trying to hit the ball. I'm trying to judge the pitch as to what it is. So if I start guessing pitches, what he's going to throw, and I think he'll probably throw a curveball here, and he throws a fastball, and I'm not ready for it. So, yeah. I mean, that doesn't even enter my mind what he's going to throw. What enters my mind is whatever he throws, I'm going to track that. And I was obviously getting pitchers that were much more skilled than I used to, working. That being said, you're also getting pitchers that are still refining their own skills. Guys that throw real hard, but are real wild, or real inconsistent with breaking balls or whatever. And so again, it's just it's everybody is trying to fine tune and get better at what they do, but you're now doing it on granted, it's a lower minor leagues, but still a much bigger stage than you've been on.
Yeah, so when you're first starting out and you got a guy that's wild, I would think that'd be very challenging. Are the wilder guys, are they tougher to call?
Well, it's tougher for everyone, and the reason being is, a guy is throwing all over the place. He just can't hit his spots, and he's all over the place. Now, as an umpire, my thoughts are, just one pitch at a time. Just take it one at a time. Just because he just threw 6 pitches in a row that were all over the place, that next one might be that good outside corner, strike. And you can't be thinking, well, he's been wild, and the next one's going to be wild. I mean, you have to be ready to call the strike if he actually gets one in there. That being said, if a guy's real wild and he's all over the place, and now he throws one close, but it's still not a strike, but it's the closest thing he's thrown. Everybody's like, and you ball it, everybody's, oh my God, I mean, it's like, okay, even though that pitch looked pretty good, and it was the closest thing he's thrown. It's still not there, So it's just when a guy's wild, it's difficult for everybody, because for the hitter, he's not sure what's going to happen, and he's also thinking I might it might be right on me,
Right.
not intentionally, but just because the guy has no control. The catcher's trying to block everything, and if there's runners on, he doesn't want him to advance and all that. So it's just makes life a lot more difficult for everybody. Obviously, anytime I've been asked, well, who's your favorite pitcher, and my answer usually is anyone that throws strikes. I mean, if you got a guy that's consistently around the plate, it makes my life a lot easier. Why? Because first of all, he's throwing strikes. So now that tells the hitters, well, he's throwing strikes, we got to start swinging. And if the hitters are swinging, guess what? I don't have to make a decision.
Right.
And so, that's, I don't care if he's a rookie pitcher that's never been in the big leagues or the minor leagues, or a veteran that's got 3 Cy Youngs. If they're not on that day, if they're not, around the plate and consistently, you got a rhythm going and throwing strikes, it's going to be a more difficult day. And if they are on, it's going to be a easier day. It's never easy, but an easier day than somebody that's not hitting their spots.
When you first got there, and I want to advance through your career, but I want to talk more about when you first started. What was it like the very first time you saw that really hard slider? Or for you, what was the tough pitch for you when you first got started in pro ball, where you're just sitting there going, geez, that pitch gets me just about every time, or was there a pitch like that?
Well, if a guy threw really hard, I've never seen, he was in the low to mid 90s. The few times I saw that, that was like, wow, he's bringing it. But but that's actually easier usually than the guy that has the real good breaking ball, the real hard slider, a good curveball, and don't even get me started on the knuckleball. Those are tougher because, first of all, when I first started out, I wasn't used to seeing such movement on a pitch that some of these guys had compared to what I've been working.
Yeah.
And that really taught you as an umpire. You're always taught as an umpire, one of the most important things you can do as an umpire is called timing. And it's exactly what it sounds like, timing. Yeah. Take your time. Do not call pitches or plays too early. Do not be calling them too fast. Take your time. Watch the pitch. Let have the ball hit the catcher's glove. Take that half second and then make your decision. Now you make a decision at the plate area, but then you make the call. And the reason, if you slow up, you have less chance of missing a pitch. I've had numerous times in my career where, as the pitch comes in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that's a strike, and then that extra half second or whatever it is of timing, I realized, no, that ball it broke, and it's just low or whatever, and I came close to calling a strike, but I balled it because of my timing, and I got it right, and if one of the first things you do as an umpire, especially behind the plate, but anywhere, is if you're struggling back there on pitches, am I calling them too fast? What's my timing? Slow down. And so when you first start out and you see these pitches that, quite frankly, you've never seen before, pitches that had so much movement on it, the most important thing I could do is slow down, let the pitch be completely over, and then make signal your call, a ball or strike or whatever. And if you had a much better shot of registering what exactly happened if you did that. If I started calling pitches too quickly, and you have a tendency to do that because the ball's moving and the guy's there and it's a game and your adrenaline's going, and so one of the most important things and not only when I started the minor leagues, but the entire career, is to make sure that I had nice and slow timing, and that's probably one of that angle and distance as far as calling plays. Just are keys to being a decent umpire.
Receive a Baseball Awakening decal by subscribing on iTunes and leaving an objective review. To claim your decals, screenshot the review and email it to Geoff@baseballawakening.com. That's GEOFF at baseballawakening.com, and we'll get that your way.
Interesting. So when you say angle and distance, what does that mean?
Well, of course, when you first start out, you're just working two-man. So when you're a base umpire, you're calling a lot of stuff. And so you can't always be close to a plate. So the most important thing for an umpire is your angle, not your distance. You can be real close to a play, but if your angle's off, if you have a bad angle, you don't see the play. If I'm further away, but I've got a great angle, I got a great shot at getting that play right. So angle and distance are angle's always first before distance. Now, as you work up and you start working three-man and, of course, four-man, your distance a lot of times is always going to be there because you're just working that base or whatever. There are times when there's rotations and those types of things where that'll be a little bit different, or multiple runners and an umpire goes out or whatever. But for the most cases, as you move up and have more umpires on the field, your distance isn't as much of a factor. Your angle is always a factor. You always want to have a good angle on whatever play is developing, so you have the highest percentage of seeing the play and getting it right.
Nice. So, is there someone scouting every single game that you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, in the minor leagues, there's several minor league supervisors that travel throughout the country and evaluate the minor league umpires. They are. I'm not sure. When I was working back in the ice ages, it seems like the early '80s. And it was a little bit of a different system. They only, which is incredible to think about, but they only had two minor league supervisors. So to cover the entire United States and all the minor leagues. So one gentleman, Dick Nelson, basically covered all the minor leagues west of the Mississippi. Well, that's a lot of territory to cover in a 5 months and to see all these umpires. Well. So we would be seen only twice a year back then. Now, it's different now because there's more supervisors, so they're going to be seen more. But yes, we are evaluated when the supervisors are there. In some cities, they have what they call observers. They're not actual umpire supervisors, but they're somebody that maybe has umpiring background or just they observe games. They write reports. They don't comment necessarily on judgment and mechanics so much as they comment on demeanor and how they handle situations and perception. Again, perception is reality to a lot of people. I could be, I always give the story. If you're sitting on an airline, you're on a United Airlines flight, and in walks the pilot, and he's wearing Bermuda shorts and a Hawaii shirt, with a hat and some sunglasses, and goes, "Hey, folks, I'm your pilot." And he could be the best pilot United ever had, but your perception is, "Who is this group?" And I'm getting off the plane. So again, the same thing in umpiring perception. That's why you always want to hustle. That's why you always want to. We always tell guys, you work every game like there's a supervisor in the stands. The majority of games there's not, but you act like there is every time because that's how you should umpire every time you walk out there. And so. Yes, you are observed. Now, let's do the big leagues. Every call that you make, every pitch that you call is graded. So, yes, we're under intense scrutiny.
So, when you're going through that, do they share that report with you so that you can kind of see where you stand?
Sure. What they do is you get a in all the leagues except the short minor leagues, the short A leagues that start in June. They only run from June to Labor Day. But in the full minor leagues that go from April until Labor Day, you get a mid-season report, and then you get a year-end report. And those are written up by the supervisors, and they consist of the games that they actually saw you work, and then also information from observers. They'll typically, especially like that. Well, both. If it's mid-season report, it says, you're doing good at this, blah blah blah. It's a form, and they have comments and stuff. But need work on your positioning on pickoffs at first with only a runner on. You're not getting the angle. You should move up toward the 45-foot line, not toward the bay. I mean, little intricacy things, but it gives you an idea of what your deficiencies are according to them, and then that these are things that I need to improve on, that I need to work on. And that information, goes in your file, and that information is what determines if you're going to move up the next year, or maybe go back to that league the next year, or ultimately, if it's something that is just not been been reported on but not improved, they may release you. So
Right.
All that is part of the whole system is being evaluated and scrutinized.
Yeah, and when you say that that you have stuff to work on, is there do you guys have like practice, or is it all just kind of on the job training?
Well, there aren't classes, so to speak. I mean, these are things that you need to try to improve in real time. Basically, it's not like you can go to a weekend seminar and pick up on how to do this or whatever. Now, the top prospects in the lower minor leagues will, after the season's over, will go to instructional league. And again, if you're chosen to go to instructional league, that's a good thing. It's because of all the, let's say for all the single A umpires, and I don't know the actual numbers, but all the single A, maybe double A umpires, there are, I don't know, 16 instructional league slots or something. I'm not sure the number, but whatever it is, the supervisor will determine who they think the top prospects in each league or whatever, and they will send them to instructional league. That's a good thing. I went to instructional league after my second year in the baseball. I was in the California league. I went to instructional league. And then after my third year, I was in Double A in the Texas League, and I went to instructional league. I learned instructional league about 6 weeks from basically approximately mid-September until Halloween, and I learned so much in those 2 instructional leagues I went to that really helped my career. And the reason is because now at that time I think there was 8 of us in Arizona, because they had 2 of them, instructional in Florida and Arizona. And there was like 8 of us, but you had a lot of one-on-one individual with the supervisor, instruction, and were observed a lot more than, obviously, way more than you were during the season. Yeah. And so that really helped you fine-tune things and learn more and how to handle things and how to do things. And so those are all very important steps in your career as you move up through the minor leagues.
Nice. And when you were going through, up through the minor leagues, is there a vast difference between, say, low A, double A, and on to triple A?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest, to me, obvious differences is when I went from the California Long A League to Double A. Every major league team has several A-ball and rookie league teams, but they all have just one Double A team and one Triple A team. So once you get to Double A, you are dealing with you've eliminated a lot of players. Quite frankly, the players that get to Double A are just better than what you've been working. And the obvious change to me when I went to Double A was the speed of the game. They were faster. They covered more ground. They hit the ball harder. They threw the ball more consistently, and it just was when I went to for the Northwest League to the Cal League, I didn't see a huge difference. I saw a big difference when I got to Double A, and that was that's where you're really the cream is now rising to the top, so to speak, and it's very noticeable.
Nice. And so, what's it like when you got the call that says, "Hey, you're going to the big leagues"?
It was wonderful. It was quite frankly, it was surprising. And the reason I say that is in 1986, I was working American League spring training. And you have to remember that until the year 2000, the American League and the National League had their own umpire staffs. You're either one or the other. You didn't work the other league. Since 2000, it's now Major League Baseball umpire. I'm just an umpire of the Major Leagues, and I work all 30 teams. But back then, either the American League was interested in you, or the National League. If they were, when you're in AAA, they see you and they're interested. They would do what they call they would buy your option. And by buying your option, what that meant was now, like the American League bought my option the first year I went to AAA. So what that meant was the National League cannot cannot steal me, so to speak. Now I'm an American League prospect. The good part about that is I was an American League prospect. I was a prospect for one of the big leagues. The bad part is there's two at that time. An umpire could go there are two big league staffs, and now I was, I'm pigeonholed into one, and the other one, it's not like they can, if the American League is going to make a decision on me, and I don't have any say or the National League has no say on me. So anyway, the option is bought. I was working American League spring training in 85 and then 86. And in 86, there were two openings on the American League staff. Had been two retirements. There were basically four umpires trying to get those two spots. And I was fourth of those four. I had only worked one major league game in my career the year before. I filled in for one game. It was a makeup game in Kansas City, and I worked third base. That's the only game I worked. The guy above me, who was third, worked about 39 games the year before, filling in for guys. And then the two guys that were above us had worked something like 60 games and 100 games or something. So, I working one game, I definitely was fourth on this pecking order. Well, there were two slots open on the staff. I just figured, the top two guys will go. I will move up in this pecking order, which means I will get more games this coming 1986 season, filling in for guys that are hurt or sick or have to, have a wedding to go to or whatever. And that'll be, obviously a good thing for my career as I get more exposure. Well, I was getting ready for a game behind the plate in Sarasota with the White Sox on April 1st, April Fool's Day. A lot of people think it's probably important. And we had no cell phones or anything back then. And the clubhouse attendant came to me. It was about 20 minutes before the game was to start. He said, "You have a phone call. You can take it in here." And I said, "Phone call? That's weird." So I get on the phone. It's Dick Butler, who was the head of the American League umpires. He was actually, that was one of his last acts as the head of the umpires for the American League, because that year is when Marty Springstead started his tenure with the AL. But it was Dick Butler, and he said, I just want, he talked real slow, Southern, he's from Texas, talked real slow. Dale, I hope you have some lead in your plate shoes today to keep you on the ground. I said, well, I'll look into that, Mr. Butler. Why is that? He goes, well, because as of today, you are now a member of the American League staff. Well, I didn't see that coming. Like I said, I thought I wouldn't get one of the two positions, but I certainly would move up in the pecking order. Well, I was thrilled. I was beyond thrilled. I was, it was just for the day that you went to umpire school, you hoped and dreamed that maybe this day would come, knowing there was a ton of obstacles between that umpire school day and that big league day. So I was excited, and it was one of the highlights of my career for sure.
Nice. So whenever you get there and you're surrounded by guys that've been there a long time, and now you're working with them, learning from them, did they kind of take you in? Talk a little bit about what it's like being a rookie umpire.
Well, it's like every time that you went from being kind of the big fish down to the small fish again, or whatever, because now you're new to the league and you're the rookie guy, and it's the same thing in the big leagues. Now, no matter how quote unquote good you were in the minor leagues, you're in the big leagues now, and you got to prove that you are worthy of being players, managers, and media. But more importantly for anything is your peers. I mean, I was, suddenly I'm guys that I had been watching work umpire baseball for years, names that I'd heard for years, people that I looked up to, people that were, outstanding in their own, reputations. It's a small fraternity, and we're constantly looking out for each other. It's when you go to a game, there's actually three teams on the field. The umpires, and a four-man crew. It's if my partner play at third, we've all missed a play because it could have. First of all, it could have just easily been me, and has been many times. But also is because you're the only four that got each other's back. Nobody else cares.
Right. Right.
Nobody else cares. And a fan who loves your call at one time, and then the next time it goes against him, so he thinks he's the worst umpire in the world. So, fans don't play into our thinking at all, really.
Right.
Because it's just that's the least of your problems. You have two dugouts, two teams that you have to deal with, and that's your priority in working a game. And so, yeah, they take you in, and they help you not only just by observing you and helping you, in the locker room. Hey, you took that play a second. You might want to try this or do this or whatever. Yeah. But also just to help you transition into the big leagues. These are all new cities we're going through. These are all new hotels, new locker rooms, new stadiums, new teams, new players. There's a lot of stuff on your plate as a rookie umpire. And oh, by the way, don't miss a pitch and don't miss a play. So you got all this going on. So yes, it's exciting. It's what you are striving to do as you get into professional baseball. But it's also the unknown. Like and quite frankly, do I deserve to be here? You kind of prove to yourself that hey, they think I better not disappoint them.
Right. So let's say there's a 7:00 game. What's the typical day for an umpire look like?
Every guy's a little bit different. We have some guys that get up early and maybe work out and eat breakfast, whatever. We have guys that sleep in, and after games we have guys that go out, and unwind and have a few beers and our night owls maybe watch a movie or something in the hotel, and it's 4 a.m. shutting it down. We have other guys that shut it down early. So you have that individuality going. But for me, a typical day was it changed through my career. I was a younger when I first got on staff. I was a guy who slept in a lot, and later as my career went on, I would get up usually around 8 or 9 o'clock and have a little breakfast. I would go on an hour walk or so. Then I would sometimes take a power nap in the afternoon. A 7:00 game usually leave. We will be there about 5:30, 5:30, 5:45. So depending on where we're at, what it was the ballpark, we leave anywhere from 5 to 5:15, whatever the situation may be. But unlike for example, even college umpires or college football officials, they may once a week, or they're typically having a pregame. Frankly, meeting the two teams. We work every day together. We work 130 plus games together. So if there's a situation or a certain pitcher with a certain move to first or whatever that we're going to encounter, we might talk about that. But otherwise, guys will get to the ballpark, and a lot of crews will play cards.
Yeah.
It just all depends on the guys on the crew and that kind of stuff. And and then you just get mentally and just prepared for your game that evening, and then out you go. And but some guys, some crews play. Guys on crews play golf a lot, 2 or 3 times a week. They'll play golf or get up early and play 18 holes. And some crews will have lunch together every day, or practically every day. Some crews won't even see each other until they go to the ballpark. It just depends on the guys who you're working with and that kind of thing.
Right. So what's an off season like?
When I was working in the big leagues, off season I loved it. When you're in the minor leagues, you're only paid for the times you work. When you're in the big leagues, you're paid year round. They just take your salary and divide it by 12. So you're getting checks the first of the month year round. In the minor leagues, typically, I worked officiated football and basketball at the high school level. I worked at a liquor store one winter. I worked at a convenience store. You just find basically temporary jobs to get you through the winter because you're going to be going back to whatever league you're going back to. Once you get to the big leagues, you're getting paid, and so I traveled a little bit, which sounds insane because that's all I do during the season. But you rack up a ton of frequent flyer miles and a ton of hotel points. And in the off season, it's nice to travel to places that you want to go and not have to work. So, you know, you go to Hawaii, or you go to Mexico, or you go to Australia, or you know, do whatever. But it just, you have the time and to do that. Some guys have off-season jobs. Some sell real estate, or you know, just to, you know, because they get bored. But you know, when you get to the major leagues, you do not have to work in the offseason like you do in the minor leagues, because you're getting a nice salary and you're getting paid year round.
I'm Geoff Rottmayer, and thank you for listening to our conversation on the Baseball Awakening podcast. Stay tuned for part 2 of our conversation with Dale Scott tomorrow.